When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous. About the past and about the future.
All right. Welcome back to Draftvice. My name is Walter, and on today's episode, we got a lovely guest. Yes, we're talking about the Browns again, but you know what? I say what goes on this show, and on today's show, we got a great guest, maybe a better Browns fan than me. I'm bringing on Rod Blum. You can find him at CLE Rob B. He is the host of the Browns Blitz Podcast. It's one of the best Browns podcasts around, probably at least top 2 or top 5 or top number Browns podcast. But he's a great guy to listen to. Go check out his show. I will put it in the. I'll put his show link in the profile. Y'all can find it. You can follow him, subscribe to the podcast, do all that stuff because as a thank you for him coming on. And thanks for coming on, man.
Absolutely. Glad to do it. Glad to be talking to you again.
Right? I had a lot of fun on your show. So I was like, you know what? Let's bring him on. I'll go ahead and we'll get to talk. I wanted to have you on after the draft because you were actually, you had some very good commentary on it. Not to expect too much on like this draft class. That, yes, it's going to be a big turnaround. And yes, it's exciting, but it's also like you have to have some level of measure with it. But yeah, what were your thoughts? What was your thoughts draft day when you're sitting there watching the, day 1 coming in and then day 2 we're getting some players? What did you think of the class overall?
Overall, I mean, the whole class. I think it's a great class. I mean, I expected Andrew Berry to do a great job because he's Andrew Berry, and this is only his second draft for us, but he's already got the reputation of he's going to do an excellent job. So. The more you look into these guys that he drafted, it's like the more you feel like he hit a home run probably on, more often than not with each of these guys, or they all had the potential to be outstanding picks. The thing that kind of surprised me with this is I was thinking of with this roster and the depth that there already was on this roster with the guys they had from last year and the free agents that they signed. I was surprised that he made 8 picks. And the fact that there's 8 guys that were picked, and when I look at them, it looks to me like these 8 guys, they're probably all going to make the team.
Quite potentially, yeah. Well, especially when you look at the Tony Fields pick, right, which is a 5th-round guy, linebacker out of West Virginia. It almost feels like he's the direct backup to Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who they drafted in the 2nd round, because it's like they're built the same. I kind of almost been described as a discount version of Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. You get Tony Fields. It sounds like they have an identity, a plan, which is not like we just drafted this guy and then this backup's going to be a different linebacker. They have like, we want this guy particularly for this reason, for this role. So, yeah, it does look like a lot of these guys are probably going to make the roster, which also means guys on the roster currently probably are not sticking around too long.
That's very possible. And my understanding is that Fields has put some weight on it. He's up around 230. I've actually heard that on my podcast last night. So
that's a good thing to hear.
Yeah, that's a good thing. And so I don't know what his role is going to be. If he's not, I wouldn't expect him to be a starter right out of the gate. But he's certainly going to be a great guy in special teams, and he certainly looks like he's got all the tools to be a starter down the road. So it looks like an excellent pick.
Yeah, I mean, again, like they've kind of, it was funny because everybody went into this year being like linebacker's a big issue. Oh, they don't value linebacker. Well, if you're going to take picks on linebacker, one, you want to make sure that there's like some familiarity, some similarity to them. So that's why I was saying like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, similar size to what he's going. I think Jeremiah is going to be able to do way more than what Fields can do. But again, like you're saying, now Fields is up to 230. He's still like a packed bullet, and they still have.
Yeah.
Like right now, when you look at the weak side linebacker position, because I think that's where the competition's going to be going into the year. If you look at Malcolm Smith is there, Mac Wilson, who is a Dorsey guy. He was drafted, like 5th-round guy, and he's been on the roster. And I think it's going to be a fight between those 3 guys as to who gets to stay. Some of it might be special teams. Some of it might be, how they do with this current scheme. Now, the difference is this office drafted Tony Fields, and now you're also getting him on a 4-year deal, whereas Mac Wilson's kind of more towards the end of his deal. So maybe they keep Wilson around. Maybe I think Smith might be the guy who maybe they cut him week 1, bring him back, because he doesn't have a lot of money on his deal. So I think Smith was like a coverage thing of like, if we don't get somebody in the draft, we have somebody here. But the linebacker room
that's
totally
very possible. Different. Yeah, he signed for, I think it was right around $1 million or just under $1 million. So yeah, it's kind of
like 500,000. That's like is
guaranteed.
Yeah, guaranteed. So he could be on the roster.
That's very possible. Yeah, I mean, and that's another thing. I think going into this draft, we really didn't know, how they valued or didn't value the linebacker position. I think they value it a little bit. So, with these 2 picks, they kind of see that it's important. They didn't try to trade up for Micah Parsons or anything, but they knew the guys they wanted, and I think they got the 2 guys they probably wanted out of this draft at linebacker.
Yeah, well, I think they got the guys they wanted just in general, because even like you saw Greg Newsome as he got to them at 20, 25, 26. I can't believe now I'm forgetting the picks that they had. At this point, it's been a week. I've forgotten all the numbers. The numbers are gone.
Oh, I know.
It's on to the next thing. But when they drafted Greg Newsome, and I'm sitting there going, I was shocked Newsome fell, but I heard that rumor that he wasn't going to go as high just a couple days before, and I'm like, he's not going as high. And I actually did a mock draft, and I had him going to the Browns. I think part of it, Nathan Zagura was calling this like from a mile out. He was high on the Greg Newsome train. He's like, if he's there, we're taking him. I was just shocked he was there. I was shocked that like the Titans, the Cardinals went linebacker. They said, we want Zaven Collins. So they figured out what they wanted, and the Browns were like, thank you for taking him. We got our guys. And I think JOK was Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah was like a top guy on their board. It was, I think that second round they had guys pegged that they were hoping were like borderline first rounders.
Mm-hmm.
And JOK was definitely one of them. I think Azeez Ojulari might have been one of the other ones, and when he went off the board, they went emergency, get up there, find a way to do it, and not be doing it expensively.
Yeah, they knew what they were doing with JOK, and they definitely wanted him, and I think they knew how much he was going to fall because of the perceived heart issue. So they played their hand perfectly. That's what they did. And they pretty much got 2 first rounders, which they're good at. I mean.
What was last year? Delpit was a very highly rated player coming out. And yes, he had the question of the tackling and, a little bit of injury concern coming out. I think he had the high ankle sprain that he was playing on the whole year. But still, like, he was a guy who was highly rated, who the year before people were talking about as potentially being a top 10 pick in the draft. So,
right.
They seem to find the guys that are like, listen, that's our value point. And safety and linebacker devalue positions. So if you're going to get a high value one, second round's probably the perfect place to get him. Darius Leonard went in the second round a couple of years ago. And he became an all-pro right out of the basket. So maybe that's what we're hoping for. We get the all-pro out of the basket and we have to worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, the Browns, they did a lot, or they didn't do several things that I thought they were going to do. They end up, I thought that going into day 2 with having 2/3 and 2/4, along with, picking at 59, I thought that they would, and of course they traded up to 52, but I thought they would trade up higher than 52, up near closer to the top, maybe, like 40, 45, to get a guy higher in the second round, and maybe even trade in the second round twice. Again, thinking they only want like 4 or 5 guys out of this draft. Why wouldn't they get, a first rounder, a couple of seconds, and then maybe a 4th and a 5th?
I mean, I definitely.
That's what I know.
Yeah, I mean that would have been kind of fun. I think they still value those picks. Like I think the Berry and Podesta mindset's still there. As long as you're getting guys into camp, because like those guys from the 5th round on, they're all kind of like, maybe LeCounte ends up playing for them, but also he's one of the few guys I think probably could sneak onto the practice squad if they kind of released him, or they waived him and they got him on the practice squad. But you're getting guys into camp,
a possibility
to see them. And again, I think they had guys at positions pegged. I think if you look at the guys that they were tied to, there were a lot of guys who were like for instance, Demetric Felton, the guy who they took in the 6th round. That was a guy that they were linked to a while back. Anthony Schwartz, I think there was a lot of rumors about him. Tommy Togiai was the only one. Tommy Togiai and Hudson were the first two that I didn't hear any connections with, and then Tony Fields and LeCounte were the ones that I didn't hear anything with. But all the day one and day two picks, it seemed like they had some kind of rumors to them, interviews, things like that. So my worry with that is that teams are going to catch on to that, and you're going to be able to start pegging who's going where with what picks. But the other end of it is, hey, listen, as fans, we're able to keep track of, hey, where the team might go in the draft.
Right. I think they're smart enough to kind of change up their strategy if that starts happening, though. I think they'll work around that. But I would say if they're getting guys like Fields and Togiai, further down in the draft, guys who really have a chance to make major contributions over the term of their 4-year contract. Why do you need to trade up into the second round? If they feel like they can get these guys down there, you're getting them at a better contract. Not that a second round contract's all that big anyways, but it just makes sense, I guess, to stay put if you know that these guys are going to slide down the 4th, 5th round.
Yeah, well, I felt like this year it felt like a lot of players slid because of the injuries, because of the opt-outs. People didn't know how to value certain things. I think that's why a guy like for instance, LeCounte was a guy who probably, if he had not gotten into the motorcycle accident that he got into and had the bad pro day, I think he might have gone like 4th round or earlier even, and teams would have valued him more. And I think that was one of those guys that teams got a little bit sleepier on because, he didn't test well. And then
because of the pro day, which is a pretty lazy way to look at it.
Well, especially because the pro days are like, it's a snapshot.
Yeah. I mean, you have to look at the film, and study the guy a little bit more than that. If you're an NFL team, I mean, it's one thing if you're just a fan and you're watching, paying attention to the pro day and trying to figure a guy out from that. But when you're an NFL team, you need to dig a little deeper. And the Browns are showing that they're not afraid to just spend countless hours working on these guys, finding out what they need to find out and being smart about their picks.
I agree. I think they did a really good job this year. Again, like what was like, so outside of Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, because I feel like everybody was like screaming for him. Like everybody in Cleveland, every Cleveland fan from around the world was begging for him to fall to them. Because again, even if you were like anti-linebacker in the first round, there were still so many people who liked Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah who were just looking at him going like, that's a guy for the Browns. Coverage dude, can do everything. That elite level athleticism. Everybody, it doesn't matter if you were analytics dude, a guy who loves Jarvis, a guy who hates Jarvis, a guy who loves who hated Dorsey, loved Dorsey. They all wanted Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. And he got to them in the second round, so everybody was a big fan of him. Outside of the first 2 rounds, what was your favorite pick of all those guys? That you mentioned Fields, and we already talked about LeCounte a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is that's probably the first time I've ever stood up off my couch and kind of cheered for somebody outside of the first round that I can remember. I was so excited when it got to the Browns, because then you have this thought of, man, are they going to take somebody else for like half a second? Then you're like, oh, they have to take him. And then when his name comes out, you're like, yes, but for me, I would say I like the pick of James Hudson, which is a little controversial. Okay. James Hudson, the tackle out of UC. Mm-hmm. I've had 2 kids graduate from UC, and I've got another one starting there.
So there you go.
In the fall. Okay. That's part of the story. The other part is, on my podcast, my brother and I have talked about James Hudson several times, and he's a guy that my brother really liked through studying the draft. He's a guy, everybody probably knows his story now. He played on the defensive side of the ball. He's moved over to offense. He hasn't played offense all that long, but he's big and mean and got a great punch and some nastiness to him. And I think he fits the profile, of a guy who's going to come in and going to learn from Bill Callahan. And I think he could be a really nice swing tackle until he's needed to start. And, I could see him being the right tackle down the line.
Absolutely. I think so. It was funny because people were talking about him. And then again, we were talking about weird pro days. He had a bad pro day. But he was, again, another one of those guys. I also think offensive line pro days maybe get a little bit blown up a little bit because, just athleticism in general for offensive line is a little bit different. Look back to Orlando Brown falling to the third round. He had the worst combine in the history of combines. It's actually been a pretty solid tackle. Got the Ravens a pick that was relatively high in the draft. So I don't know, that was kind of a good grab on their end. So sometimes if you're looking at these guys and you're going Hudson was a guy who, like you said, former D lineman, had good movement skills. By the way, a guy who I really liked in this draft is Azeez Ojulari. He played against Hudson. He had a lot harder of a time against Hudson as he did against his backup. Blew up the backup like crazy. Like the backup had no business being there. But when Hudson was on the field, he did a really good job until he started headbutting. So you got a meanness to him. He's got good movement skills. I think they plan to play him at tackle and at least train him there to be the swing tackle. I think we talked on your show, Hubbard. There might be questions. They're not going to tell us if there's anything with Hubbard until, Hubbard doesn't show up. That's just not Andrew Berry's thing. Andrew Berry doesn't talk about anybody's contract. He doesn't talk about anybody's injury. They're going to let you guys try and find that out for yourselves or let the players talk about it. Yeah. That's what I love about him.
Yeah, there's not a bunch of dirt floating around. We don't need all this stuff, to trying to find out who's on their way out and all this. That's not good for the team.
No,
Berry knows that. Stefanski knows that, and I think the players respect that. And that's just a great thing that's happened with the Browns. Just over the past season.
I also love their press conferences, by the way, because they look like a buddy comedy show. Like it's such a weird thing. Like when the two of them were in the press conferences together, I feel like I'm watching an episode of Psych. Like I feel like behind the scenes, like Stefanski's playing pranks on Andrew Berry or vice versa.
Yeah.
like Andrew Berry actually wasn't supposed to be a GM. He was supposed to be selling like pharmaceuticals somewhere, and like all of a sudden it's like, yo, let's go run a football team, and he's just like, okay, let's go do it. And it's like, and now they're drafting like great players in like the 5th, 6th round.
Crazy.
But yeah, I really like that pick. I also like the Schwartz pick, Anthony Schwartz pick, the speedster out of Auburn. Like, I
absolutely
fell in love with him. Like, I think what was it like? Not too long ago, but like. Especially because I didn't think they were getting Elijah Moore. I just felt like he was going to be a top 50 guy. I didn't think they were going to take him in the first round because I felt like there was a defensive player that would be there that they would really like. But if Elijah Moore, I think Elijah Moore was another one of those guys. If he made it past 50, man, they would have been calling up phones being like, yo, we want to get up there. What's it going to cost? But he went. Jets took him. Those smarmy Jets stole Elijah Moore. Picking good players. What are you doing, Jets? What are you guys doing? Be back.
You guys aren't supposed to be good at this.
Only one basement dweller coming back up from at a time. You guys gotta wait your turn. Like we're doing good. You gotta let us get good players. He probably wouldn't have made it all the way down there. But again, I liked Elijah Moore a lot. I think that was their token gift. But I liked Anthony Schwartz a lot.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see him on the field with that speed. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And people that are worried about him just being a speed guy in this. I mean, he put up some decent numbers, and their offense really didn't feature the pass that much. So I think his ceiling's probably a lot higher than what people are thinking right now.
Yeah, like I think Baker Mayfield's a little bit better than Bo Nix. So I'm guessing. I might be wrong. Maybe Bo Nix develops.
Yeah.
But as of right now, I think Baker Mayfield's a better quarterback. I think they're going to be way more like having a little bit more fun with him in the offensive design, both as a deep ball guy, but also the gadgetry to get him behind the line of scrimmage. He did a lot of crossers when he was at Auburn and getting him the ball. So get him a little bit of run after catch. That breakaway ability though, and again that frees up guys like Jarvis and Odell, who like when they came into the league were both really big run after catch guys. They came into the league and I think they were better than the running backs at run after catch at one point. Those guys were like 1 and 2, and then it was running backs and tight ends. So maybe you get them back to their old ways, and then they still have the tight ends of we have 30 tight ends now. It's just a tight end circus.
Yeah. Another guy people are excited about is Marvin Wilson, the defensive tackle.
That was my dude. I was like, oh, I can't believe we got him. Like, because I'm like, I didn't see, because like that news came in later. Like, because I was like one of those, like, because he was a UDFA, and I'm like, the news started coming in. I think I went to a Dave & Buster's. They finally reopened those by me. Because my girlfriend likes playing DDR. So we go up to there, and I start pulling up my phone. I'm like, oh, my God. Yo, they could have taken him anytime on day 3. I would have been happy. That was great. The fact they got him, Tommy Togiai, and then they even signed Malik McDowell, who, a guy who's like a former second-round pick of the Seahawks. I thought that was an interesting signing on their end. So they're getting cheap on D-line.
From the Chargers. They're just – I think they're trying to corner the market on defensive tackles.
They just wanted to get cheaper. I think that's actually the point, is getting cheaper at positions. You still want good players at positions like D-tackle and linebacker, but especially cheaper, like not expending the resources. That's why, like, I think maybe Barmore got the Patriots said Barmore's falling. We'll trade up and get Barmore. That was one of those drafts I went, that wasn't that bad of a draft for the Patriots.
Right.
So, if he had fallen a little bit further, I think they were also in on a Lynn McNeil because I think they actually had, like, interviews with him. He went after the second-round pick. He didn't make it anywhere near the third-rounder. I really think if they hadn't traded up to get Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, that second, third-rounder would have been Quinn Miners out of Whitewater, the guy who was at the Senior Bowl, who has the nice big tummy that's just sticking it out of the shirt. I think that was the guy who, if they didn't do the weird pick swap with the Panthers, I think that was a guy they really liked for that spot. And I think when they did the pick swap, they knew, like, okay, we got Jeremiah. Well, okay, like, we got one at that 91 spot. We got to make sure that we're getting a speedster because they needed a wide receiver. They did need to add to that room.
Yeah. Did a great job. I mean, just a great job. And I don't know about Richard LeCounte, if he's going to make the team. All this attention on linebackers, we really don't know what kind of sets we're going to see most often from this defense. But I mean, we might see a lot of 4-2-5 out there. Yeah. In which case, they're going to want an extra safety. They're going to carry a crap ton of defensive backs on this team if that's the case.
Well, I think what we talked about the last time when I was on your show is that they might be moving to, like, listen, we'll keep 4 linebackers, 5 at most.
Yeah,
they might be
very
moving
possible.
Towards, like, 6, 5, 6, 7 safeties because the coverage unit needs to be very versatile, and especially if you lose somebody. The safeties. It was funny. I was watching the interviews of Robert Saleh because what I do as part of this show after the draft is I watch all the interviews of the GMs and the head coaches. And the Robert Saleh interview was kind of very enlightening about how his view on the difference between safety and linebacker. And it was very minuscule. It was very similar to how the Browns referred to it. I don't remember who on the Browns talked about it recently I think it was after the Tony Fields pick, when they were differentiating between linebacker and safety. And he's like, well, really the main difference is if you're lining up by the post, you're safety. If you ever have that in your playbook, that's the safety as far as what the Browns said. And what Robert Saleh said is, listen, the difference between a box safety and a linebacker, it's minuscule, and we can coach that up. Yes, there's a learning curve, but it's not that hard of a learning curve. So Joe Woods being under Robert Saleh for a little bit, being familiar with John Lynch taught him as far as converting safeties to linebackers, I think there might be, hey, listen, if we do run low on linebackers, we'll get them a safety that could play that way. So I like everything that they've done. I like, the second they brought in Barry, the second they brought in Stefanski, I thought this was such a cool, like again, I love that visual. The two of them sitting next to each other was so fun. It was just like, it looked like they were about to go on a road trip. So what are your feelings? Where do you think this team's going to be at this year? Because, again, we got so many new players on defense and, like, a couple of new players on offense. Where do you think it's going? Because, like, I know there's, like, everybody's, like, playoffs are bust. I think that it might take time for the defense to gel even.
Yeah, I mean, that's one part of it. There's going to be a lot of new guys out there on defense, a lot of new starters. So I think it's going to take a little bit of time for the defense to find its zone. It depends how the schedule looks first few games. We'll see. Hopefully they get a couple of easier games to start with. Not that there are any truly easy games in the NFL, but to kind of find their footing. Man, if this defense, if the defense starts out hot, oh man, this team could really do some things this year. They could really win a lot of games.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I think, again, if that defense gels, and I think there's a lot of pieces there to really like. No matter what, Denzel Ward is a great player. No matter what, John Johnson III was a great pickup for them.
Yeah.
Taki is a good role player. They're going to probably utilize him maybe even a little bit more in blitz packages now that they have man coverage corners with Newsome and Greedy possibly coming back, and Ward and Troy Hill, and it just feels like names upon names upon names. So this should be so fun. I'm telling you, I'm really hoping it's either the Vikings or the Lions early on, because if they those teams are going to be a little bit slow starter, I think.
Yeah. So.
We should find out by Wednesday, I think, actually.
That's right. Yeah, they're releasing the schedule next Wednesday. So, this isn't Madden, so you got to implement all your new, any new game plans and all that stuff, and these new guys have to learn the playbook and everything. So, that stuff can take a little bit of time. But if the Browns are fortunate with injuries, and of course we know they're a deep team, so they're going to be able to survive even some injury bugs on that. But, if they can come together as a team early and avoid major injuries and just play well, I don't see why they wouldn't have a heck of a season. And we know it's important that they get hot near the end of the year. That's kind of what it's all about.
Absolutely. And I mean, we even saw it last year. Like, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did not gel instantaneously. Their defense caught on towards the end of the year. The offense adjusted.
We never really gelled at all until one of the last couple games of the season, then in the playoffs.
Well, yeah, the Browns, forget about it. It wasn't until that Steelers game, which we went on that at your show, where it's just like the most amazing playoff game ever.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Just like, but that was like the moment of like, by the way, like, I'm like, AVP should be probably calling a little bit of the plays. I'm thinking, just like, let him call a little bit. Just Stefanski, you could, not like he's been a bad play caller either, but I think it's again part of the Anthony Schwartz thing is that we're adding dynamic, adding speed. Demetric Felton. I think the real question with Demetric Felton joining the team is Dearness Johnson, because I think Dearness Johnson was actually a very underrated returner. Like, I think that was our best return guy. I think DPJ was not that great at it. I think Dearness.
I really like Dearness Johnson, but yeah, I mean, Felton could really add another dynamic too. Being able to, I mean, he can line up kind of anywhere a back would line up or as a receiver plus return. So. He can be a really valuable guy because he can do so many different things. So it's going to be. I really need to sit down to kind of figure out who I think even has the best shot at this. And this is before these guys even start practicing and all this. Just to try to figure out a composition for this roster, because I would have a hard time seeing Dearness Johnson go, over a guy who's going to probably play kind of probably more receiver, I would think. Dearness Johnson's a really talented guy, but obviously he's not going to get a huge chance to carry the ball here in Cleveland.
Yeah, unfortunately, running back's a hard thing to make valuable unless they trade one of the top two guys, which I don't think anyone's doing. Just with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, I think that's a good combo to have. I think the value of Demetric Felton is the fact that he can be that backup for three different spots, and that's that one extra piece. Maybe they don't keep a fourth tight end this year. Maybe they only keep three. Maybe that's Stephen Carlson's spot.
That's a possibility. Yeah.
The only thing is, Stephen Carlson was good on special teams. He got both of those onside coverage returns, and it's like, thank God, man.
He's good, but if you got more guys, more safeties, and more safeties than linebackers, making the team. Maybe those are your special teamers. Maybe you got a couple extra guys there versus some of the other guys. I mean, it's going to be. I'm glad I'm not the guy who has to kind of sit down and actually make the decisions on who makes this team, because it's going to be tough. But you got to realize, as a Browns fan, that some guys you like are probably not going to be here when the season starts, and that this is what happens when you root for a good team and you keep bringing in good players. And the only way you get better is by competition like this.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
It's an amazing thing. It's funny because that becomes the debate of which good player, which better player, which good player, which player do you want to keep long term? Which one do you see having the better arc or something? Like, that's where I think the debate's going to be the next couple of years. Now, sometimes that might make the debates on Twitter a little bit more entertaining, but that's also what makes the debates but it's what makes a good team. Like, I was having this discussion with a Bills fan the other day. They have the same argument about Tremaine Edmonds that Browns fans have about Jarvis Landry. And I'm like, oh, really? This is just what good teams do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really am excited about it. So I know you were paying attention to the Browns draft. How did you feel about the other three teams in the division? Because that's going to matter a lot. Like, was there anyone that you felt worried about when they had their draft?
You know, I think, and I think that the Bengals, and I'm not worried about the Bengals at this point, but I was surprised they didn't take Sewell with their first pick. To me, you have to protect Joe Burrow first, and I know they took a tackle in the second round. And I know they got a great talent with their first pick, but if that's the Browns, I guarantee you they take the tackle.
Oh, for sure. I especially because of how much. Well, I think you also look at what you invest in free agency. They probably could have, if they went after, say, somebody else instead of going after Riley Reif to be the right tackle, they could have went after Curtis Samuel to be the wide receiver. They could have spent their money differently, and I think they kind of showed their hand early on when they started spending their money on offensive linemen and changing that up. And then, clearly they were drafting Jamar Chase by the time we got to the week of the draft. So I agree, though. I'm nervous for Joe Burrow's ACL because that's, this is a guy who played really well when he was at LSU, came in, number 1 overall pick. And everybody's like, that offensive line's been bad for 3 years, and you guys have still not really addressed it very well. Because Bobby Hart was playing right tackle for you last year, and he ended up being one of the better ones. That's not a good sign.
That's not good.
I do think they did better on defense. I do think the assets they accumulated on defense for the Bengals, it's not worrisome levels, though, because it's still Lou, whatever his name is over there, running defense, and I don't think he knows what defense he's running. So, I heard.
I'm not that concerned about him yet, but I thought the first pick was interesting. So, I mean, Jamar Chase is great, and I'm sure he's going to have a heck of a career. But man, you got Joe Burrow there. You got to protect your main asset.
Yeah.
If that guy gets killed again, I mean, you're in trouble. Your season's shot again. It doesn't matter who you have out there running patterns.
Well, good thing is we have Myles Garrett. And that could help him get some sacks. And maybe people will give him the respect.
We got a few other guys too, now. And I mean, the Steelers, they got Najee Harris, but I don't know who he's running behind. So good luck. The Ravens, they always draft wide receivers. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because you got Lamar trying to throw the ball. I'll be honest. For me, as long as the Browns are drafting and have Andrew Berry making good, solid picks, I'm not worried about who these other teams are taking, because I think the Browns are ahead of these teams in the ability to accumulate talent right now.
No, I agree. They've been doing very good, and even when you look at guys who are on the roster from last year. It's maybe not everybody got to play a bunch, but you're also now looking at year 2 of Jordan Elliott. You're looking at year 2 of Jedrick Wills. You're looking at year 2 of Grant Delpit coming off the Achilles, but still, like, you're hoping that he comes back and is a force. So, so many different pieces coming back together. Harrison Bryant, who honestly looked like a really good route runner and a solid blocker, but he's got to learn how to hold the ball. That's just his one issue. Maybe he will do that, getting in the weight room, learn how to hold. Like, they'll do like ball drills, like the medicine ball, like have him chuck it around a little bit.
I think that first fumble kind of spooked him a little bit. So I think he has better hands than what he showed. So hopefully he'll have a great season. But yeah, I think the Browns are going to carry those 3 tight ends, and I think they're all going to play.
Oh yeah, well, Njoku's great. The Harrison Bryant looked like he was developing. And then Hooper's been pretty solid. Hooper started looking like he was able to make some moments happen towards the end. I think Njoku's just a different kind of cat, though. They don't make him like him. Like Kyle Pitts is the Super Saiyan version of him, but that's about it. Like Njoku is the guy who can make the big leaping bounds, and even when he's covered, isn't covered. So I wonder if they're going to extend Njoku. That's the guy who it's like looking into the future, because tight end contracts aren't that expensive. You want to keep a good expensive tight end around. It's not even. It's like it's still half the price of an expensive wide receiver. So I could see them.
Well, you're right. You're right. That's an interesting point. I'll be honest. I thought they were going to let him go and save the cap space with Njoku, because it would have saved him, I think, $6 or $7 million or something this year. But they decided to keep him, and I hope he has a great season. So,
especially because if he walks in free agency, makes a big contract, then now you get a comp pick out of it. I think there's a lot of.
Well, yeah.
I think the comp pick formula is coming in on that. I think you look at the guys who they signed in free agency, all these 1-year deals with Jadeveon Clowney and Tack McKinley. They're hoping they have big years and get to walk in free agency, make some buku money, and then we get a 3rd-round comp pick. Oh, how nice!
Yeah, definitely.
So, I'm very excited for that. I want to see. Was Jadeveon signed the last time we talked? I think the rumors were going around. I don't know if we were officially done.
I don't think he probably wasn't signed at that point. So yeah.
What were your feelings on that? Because I don't remember your opinion. Also, that meant Sheldon Richardson hadn't been released yet.
Right. I mean, I'm excited about Clowney. I don't know what he's going to do sack wise. I'm not worried about it. I think he's he can be a force. He's great against the run. I hope he can stay healthy. I hope he and Miles play most of the games. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
They both have had issues with staying on the field all the time for various reasons. So man, if we can just see them both out there, if they can both be on the field most of the time, man, I think it's going to be pretty scary for other teams. You can't double both of those guys, and they're going to double Miles.
Yeah.
And, everybody's going to double Miles. They can't really triple Miles anymore. So they're
going to create some problems, because they, then they got to deal with Jadeveon on the other side.
They got Clowney, and hopefully out of this crop of defensive tackles, the Browns are going to find some guys who can not only play the run and get some penetration, but maybe get some hits on the quarterback too this season.
And I think they might blitz a bit more now that they have this coverage unit there. I think the blitzing thing might be a little bit more in the cards. I know they were like 30th in blitz percentage last year, but that's because you literally had to play 2 safeties high all the time, because guys could only cover in zone coverage. So outside of Denzel Ward, now you have
I think
3
you're right.
guys.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's going to change things up, and I think you are going to see more blitzing, definitely.
Which is going to free Miles up.
Yeah. I think you'll probably see some 5-man fronts sometimes too, and maybe you'll see Miles and Clowney and maybe Tack McKinley all out there at once. That'd be kind of scary.
Yeah, the speed rush package. That's going to be crazy.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Get Tack at the wide 9, get like Jadeveon lined up on the inside or Miles lined up on the inside. I think that's going to be the sick one for that one. I can't wait to see the cornerback battle, right? Who's going to be playing outside of Denzel Ward? Because Greedy Williams, we're probably going to see year 2 of Greedy coming back from the shoulder injury. Greg Newsome, who I honestly loved watching him. Again, a guy who's got very good movement skills. I mean, there's very few guys can move like he does at corner and react the way he does. I wouldn't be shocked if he was the best guy that came out of last year. He does have like the weird soft tissue injury thing. That's something I think is more manageable. I think they can deal with that relatively well. So I'm kind of intrigued by him, and I still want to see what we get out of Delpit. If there's something there at a Delpit, that combination, you're just all of a sudden getting a rush of defensive players of like 15 guys now, it seems like. We just keep on adding more and more players to that roster, and it's just going to get it's going to get bigger and deeper and scarier.
Yeah, that's the thing. They've added enough guys to where if they don't get anything out of Greedy and Delpit, they're okay. But, man, if they do, if these guys are able to play and are on their game, man, the defense is just going to be scary, and it's going to be so deep.
Yeah.
I mean, there'll be it's I don't even know what else to say. It's just going to be fun to watch.
Yeah. And the only thing is like, who's going to be the fourth boundary corner? Like, that's the only, like, now we're down to like the fourth, fifth guy on the roster of like a particular position. Like, now we're getting down to the minutia of like, who's like the ninth guy? I remember I was telling my cousin, I'm like, well, they just need to sign a corner free agent. He's like, dude, like, you can go into the draft with some needs. I'm like, not the Browns. The Browns don't have needs. They have like a wish list. That's how this goes. So I think this was a great year so far. Great offseason.
Yeah, it used to be that not too many seasons ago, we would be watching a Browns game, and if any one of the starters anywhere went down with an injury, we're like, oh, crap, we're done.
Yeah.
We're just done. The game's over. And this team is not going to be like that. Not that we want any injuries at all on this team, but this roster's deep enough that they're going to be okay.
Well, that was the thing. That was the thing last year. That's what I learned from this roster last year, was that anytime something went wrong, they had an answer. And it feels like they're trying to do that again. Like they
had guys ready to go.
Yeah.
Not only talented guys, but the guys were coached up. They came in, and most of them played pretty darn well.
Yeah. I mean, again, like, you had half the team out with COVID, and they beat the Steelers in the playoffs. You had the Eagles game with no Myles Garrett. Didn't matter. Olivier Vernon decides to step up and be like, you know what? I'm back to playing real football. Then, again, that was the saddest moment. He tore his Achilles, but he was on a roll this year. So, again, it's going to be a very, very exciting year for Browns fans. Now, again, we got to make it through camp. Everybody got to get healthy. I'm excited to see Baker year 2 in one offense. That's going to be fun because, 2 years? Same coach, same system, really? That's going to be a shocker.
Yeah, he's got to just be thrilled to death with that.
Maybe they'll have people
to not be looking at everything new again. Yeah.
But any other thoughts on this year's Browns, this draft? Anybody else you think we're past the free agency point?
I'm excited about the team. I think Andrew Berry's done just an outstanding job with the free agents, with the draft, with the UDFAs, and who knows? I mean, you never know who else he could bring in. I mean, there's still some free agents out there. If he thinks there's another need on this team. Once they bring guys into camp and they see how some of these guys are performing, he'll bring somebody else in.
Steven Nelson revenge thing. Get the corner who the Steelers just cut and be like, yo, guess what? Listen, you might not have a starting role here, but Steven Nelson, you get to ride with us in the playoffs, and you get to watch the Steelers not make it to the playoffs. How about that, Steven Nelson? You could be our high-end backup, rotate in. We get you for a few games, go ahead and kick somebody else inside. Come on over, Steven Nelson. And then maybe they bring back Sheldon Richardson, although it's sounding less and less likely as we get days and further on. I don't know. I feel like there's still an opportunity for him to come back. I know they said it on the radio the other day that they were interested in him coming back. Both Barry and Stefanski usually don't have that united of a front as far as messaging goes for one player. They both sound like they've been in contact with his agent. So maybe we'll see him back. It does sound like, they're at least preparing for life without Richardson, and if they get him back, it's a plus. So I would be excited if they got him back, just because it'd be great to have that player back, to, what he kind of did, what he was in that locker room, kind of as like a good mentor to have around. And he was solid in a lot of games. He was a big part. He had the fumble on Derrick Henry in the Titans game. So he was also the one, I think he was the one who had the welcome to football moment for Joe Burrow, where he just slammed him on the ground and was like, well, sit. And sacked for 9 yards by Sheldon Richardson. Sit down. I like that. I also just kind of miss Sheldon Richardson's face. He's got that kind of like goofy kind of demeanor. I think he was talking about, it was 2 years ago when Freddie was the head coach. They were asking he was like, yeah, I hope Mason plays. He's like, why? He's like, did you see him play last time? I hope he plays. I like his face. I like his demeanor. I like his chemistry with the D-line. Obviously right price, right? I'm never going to question how they shop on the Browns defense or offense. I'm not going to question it with Andrew Berry managing the checkbook, but it would be great to have him back. That's the one guy who I'm like, I like that guy. I always dug Sheldon Richardson as a player.
Yeah, and there's so many DTs in camp already, man. Just why not? Let's just blow this thing wide open. I'd love to just watch all these guys just in their banging heads, just trying to make this roster, because guys want to play for the Browns now. They want to be a part of this.
Yeah, that's what really makes it exciting. I remember a few years ago, it was the Tony Jefferson one. Was he the one who was like, I'm not going to the Browns. I'll take a discount to go to the Ravens. And it's like, well, dude, you did nothing on the Ravens, and now you're kind of sitting here watching the Browns go to the playoffs and beat other teams. So have at it, man. Good on you. But now everybody's like, Richardson might be willing to take a discount to go to the Browns and come back. And the thing I like about Richardson, he's versatile. They could play him at edge. They could kind of move him all over the line of scrimmage. Another one of those guys where he's not just him and Malik Jackson, very similar kind of players. So that was kind of the writing on the wall when they signed Malik. It was kind of like, oh, they're at least covering in case they have to get rid of Sheldon Richardson's big contract. But overall, again, I've been loving the moves that they've made.
Absolutely.
Any final thoughts?
I just thanks for having me on. I mean, it's always great talking Browns, and man, I'm ready for I think I'm ready for the season.
Right? It feels like it's so far away now. It's so far away.
It is.
I just got my Christmas presents, but I want to use them. I got to wait to get the batteries from the store, plug it in, charge it. Oh, my God. Then I got to wait for my friends to come over. It's like you get an Xbox, but you don't have the games to play with the Xbox. It's like, what was the point of this? I could watch TV on my Xbox? Great. Yeah, I agree. I want to see the toys in usage. I want to hear news. I want more stuff. It's not over till it's over. Yeah,
Can we at least start training camp or something so we can do something?
Yeah, we got to get this started sooner. Come on, Treader, move off of the whole mini camp thing. Let's go ahead and start sooner. Thanks again for coming on. I really appreciate it. Like I said, I had a lot of fun on your show. I hope you had fun coming on here.
Absolutely. Good time.
Yeah, and again, I love talking Browns with people, and I love talking about anybody's team, but especially the Browns because it's my team. I enjoy it, and it's just so fun to be invested in this team right now. You know what it was? It was you don't have to be happy to be a Browns fan out of sarcasm. It's now like I'm a Browns fan. There's something good we're looking towards. This is great. It's not like people are looking at me wearing my hat. It's like, why are you wearing that in New Jersey? It's like, shut up. I'm a Browns fan. Leave me alone. It's so great to be a Browns fan now. And now there's and I love the team and I love the players. The players are all characters. They're all amazing characters. Miles is funny to watch. Did you see Miles when he was doing the pick call? That was amazing. Was that for Schwartz? Where he came up and he had the biceps bulging out of his jacket, being like.
I don't know if anybody heard who the pick was because everybody was looking at Miles' muscles, saying, "Oh my gosh, how many pounds of muscle has he put on this off season?"
He's just huge. That guy, he's just a house. He is ginormous. Joe Burrow's sitting there going why didn't they get a tackle? Why didn't they get a tackle? Please get another tackle. Tackle every tackle. We'll just draft tackles. You want to draft Jamar Chase? Fine, but draft me 5 tackles as well. We're gonna need a bigger line. That's it. We're just pull in more people. We need more linemen. We're gonna do max protect every time.
Start six linemen and a couple of tight ends too, maybe.
Yeah, they really might. I mean, and they got rid of Gio Bernard. I can't believe the Bengals don't make any sense. I really wonder what ham sandwich you're going to put in there next. I don't get it. That team is first time they've ever traded down in forever, so that was kind of shocking. But I'm so excited for this year. The only team that looks like it actually did something smart was the Baltimore Ravens, and even still, I'm not worried. They still have gaping holes on their roster, so I'm still a little less worried about the Ravens.
Yeah, it was other teams that had better drafts. I mean, like the Jets. I thought Detroit had a nice draft.
I was a huge fan of Detroit's draft. They went all kneecap biter all around. Penny Sewell, Lynn McNeil, Levi Owusu-Koramoah, Amon St. Brown. I like that whole draft class. It was great.
Yeah, it was great. And, you're talking about the Bills. The Bills' first two picks, man, on the D-line, kind of a little bit scary there, too, because they already have some guys on that defensive line. So that's a little bit interesting. I don't recall how the rest of their draft went, but
Bills took the two. They took Gregory Rousseau and they took Carlos.
They took
Basham.
Rousseau, and
I like both those guys. By the way, I knew the Browns wouldn't take Basham because he's just way too old for them. They just don't. They don't like the olds. They like the news. I get it.
Yeah.
But then they took two tackles back to back. I believe it was Spencer. I want to say Spencer Brown was the name, but I might be getting that wrong. But this guy blew up the I think his RAS was he was a 99 percentile athlete, off the chart crazy athlete. So they took back to back tackles and back to back DNs, which was weird because I don't think tackle was really their worry. I felt like it was guard, but. Again, I did think they needed edge rusher. They're looking for life after Jerry Hughes. But there was no draft that made me go, oh, I'm worried for the Browns prospects. We have to play them next year. I feel worried. Yeah. Chargers, maybe. Chargers finally figured out they need a draft offensive lineman in the first round, which was what? You guys figured this out after Philip? Philip Rivers is coming out of retirement just to kick Tom Telesco's butt. He's just what the heck, man? I was here 16 years, and you guys go ahead and draft offensive linemen now, really? And Herbert's what did I do? They actually finally are starting to get things right. I don't know what's going on with the Chargers. It's blowing my mind. That one was nuts. But you're right. There's not any of them that worry me too much. Even the Ravens picks. I'm shocked the Ravens didn't go safety. I'm shocked the Ravens didn't go more offensive linemen. I get it. They signed Alejandro Villanueva. Good news for the Browns because Myles Garrett has his number. He's Alejandro Villanueva. Why'd he go back to the AFC North? All right, fine. We'll dominate him there too. No
problem.
He would have been smarter about that. He would have been I'm going to go to a team that I don't have to I don't have to play the Browns twice a year because Myles Garrett was always good at beating him, and now he's switching to the right side, so he might be even I remember when they've done that where they move any tackle they move over 30 to the other side. I never early on, yes, when you're in your mid-20s, switch sides, switch them to guard, do what you want with them, but switching sides when you're at 32, 33, 34, you've built the muscle memory. It's not as easy anymore. So, again, Alejandro Villanueva, if they're going to be really playing him at right tackle, good on them, I guess. Good luck. Maybe we'll see what happens. My biggest worry was their signing of Zeitler this year. But everybody else, it's such a makeshift line. Stanley's coming off an injury. So I'm not really worried about the Baltimore Ravens. I think they took a little bit of a step back after their draft. I like the Owe pick for them. I thought that was a smart move because if there was one team he could go to and he could probably be utilized right away and in a way that actually uses what he does well. That's the one worry I have. Jedrick Wills, time to be the elite Jedrick Wills. Time for him to step up. Be you know what? Ain't no he's taking me out, man. That's it. Yeah. We got Conklin. Conklin, you cover right, I got left. We got this down. We got the top offensive line in the league. Let's go. By the way, the one thing I want them to do, extend Wyatt Teller now. That's the one thing I want. It's the one Christmas list. I get it. Maybe they won't do it. Maybe they have another guard on the roster. I just liked how he played this year. Wyatt Teller was so fun. And he's just, the demeanor, too. I remember watching the cut from the playoff game, and I'm oh, my God, this was so exciting of watching. He's just the Browns is the Browns. The Browns is the Browns. I loved watching his clips from that game. That Steelers game. Him and Hunt. I love those guys. They're all entertaining. I hope it continues to be a fun, entertaining fest of amazement, because it really is a fun team at this stage.
Absolutely. I love all those guys. And I root for every single guy on the Browns roster. And it's a great, like you said, it's a great bunch of characters, a great mix of personalities. And just, there's, if you're somebody who likes a certain kind of player, a certain kind of guy, there's somebody on the Browns for everybody, I think, to really, really like.
Yeah. Again, it's I just the caricatures, how they act, the personalities. It's the I miss Larry Ogunjobi. I'll miss him, but I'm glad he got paid, and he got paid by the Bengals, and hopefully he doesn't play well for the Bengals, and then he got paid and stole money from the Bengals. That would be the best move for everybody. Just went over there to tank their team. Like, he signed over there to hang out with Geno Atkins. They cut Geno Atkins, and he's like, well, now I'm just gonna suck because I came here to hang out with Geno, and Geno's now somewhere else. So I'm
kind of crappy.
We'll see what happens. I'm excited, though. I'm excited for this season. I'm excited for having you on. Thanks again for being here. I really appreciate it. Yeah, you're doing way better things than I am, so it was great that you got to come on and be like a part of the show for the night, and I got somebody on here. I don't get to talk a lot of Browns, so when I get somebody on to talk about the Browns with me, it's like, oh, this is going to be so much fun. It's a whole other toy, a whole other day. I really appreciate it. If you want, you can follow Rod Blum at CLERodB. And also, he's got a podcast. It's called the Browns Blitz Podcast. Go ahead, check it out. It's a very fun podcast, and he has on great guests. Some people who might have also been on this show. Just this guy who's only been on his show. It's been on that show. But still, I've been on his show, and there have been better people than me on his show. So you go check it out. And thanks again for coming on, man. Plug anything else you want to plug in right now while you got the shot.
That's about it. My stuff's on my Twitter account. The podcast is at the Browns Blitz if people want to check it out there. And we've got links to the episodes there. But the Browns Blitz, you can find it pretty much anywhere you find podcasts.
What about under the bed? Do you leave the podcast under the bed? Because I've done that every once in a while.
I have not done that lately.
I found an old podcast from like 30 years ago underneath my bed. It was on a tape recorder, though. It was like before podcast. It was weird. Very big throwback. Thanks again for coming on. It's always great talking to you. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. It was a great show. I appreciate him for coming on. Go check out Rod at Rod Blum. You can find him at CLERodB, or you can go ahead and check out his podcast called the Browns Blitz Podcast. It is a Browns podcast. I was on there recently as a guest, but he gets better people than me on there. So go check it out. And if you want, you can follow the podcast at Draftvice on Twitter, at Draftvice_football on Instagram. You can follow me at BROJO. Death is in the end of life. Punch like a delicious drink you drink in the summer. And have a nice day.
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous. I'm about to pass. I'm about to puke.